Hello and welcome to Take Time. I am your host Patrick Marlett, and today let's continue our conversation on the NTH Catalina, or the Urban Gentry watch. If you haven't watched our part 1 video on the NTH Catalina, I would encourage you to do so now, as it provides you a look at the consumer packaging as well as some first impressions on my part. But more importantly, when you watch those part 1 videos, I like to take and answer any questions, common or reoccurring questions that are posted in that video. And one of the most common comments I received is that the NTH Catalina here looks very similar to a marathon watch. Which model? I didn't see anything in Marathon's current catalog that resembles this watch at all. However, I did notice it bears a striking resemblance to an older Glashütte diver, though in NTH's defense, it's hard to be original. And on that note, the NTH Catalina is a refreshing mix of Flieger aesthetics with diving utility in mind. However, is the look simply confused or well thought? As with all of my reviews here on the channel, I like to start with the bad and then move on to the good before giving my final verdict on a review item. So let's talk Catalina. In our part 1 video, it was remarked that the bezel's redundancy of numerals with their same type font and larger scale made the dial seem busy. Now, I don't necessarily feel the bezel is at fault here for that. Honestly, I think the dial feels busy because it's rather cluttered. Go ahead and keep the text over at 6 o'clock and the logo the same size, but perhaps shrink down the scale of the hour, minute markers, and numerals on the dial instead. There's very little left of the black dial to even take in, as the dial face on the NTH sub is particularly small. So scaling down the size of everything on it would tone down that busy vibe folks are getting. That's just my take, however. My next bad note is with the bezel being unidirectional. I get that this is a dive watch for pilots and is only meant to look the part, but make the bezel bidirectional. Many early divers' watches utilized bidirectional friction-based bezels, so there's no real excuse for this only being unidirectional, nor is it advantageous of the bezel to only operate one way in this current configuration. I'm supposed to be able to track 2 time zones with this bezel, right? Okay, well, make doing so more efficient. Now, if you've watched the channel for some time now, you already know my feelings about this type of end link. I dislike how it extends the lines of the case. Now, this is a minor gripe and moreover a personal preference, but I'd like to see more brands adapt end links that allow the bracelet to connect to the case and end link via the center link. To me, it provides a better look and fit. Something similar to what Monta does here with their bracelets. You can see what I mean. The case isn't extended past the lug lines, and it just wears better on the wrist. Again, personal preference, but I'd like to see more brands doing this. Aside from the busy look of the dial and the bezel only being unidirectional, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck here with the NTH sub. For starters, the action on the bezel and the overall fit and feel of the bracelet are simply top notch, especially for a watch that's sub $800. I love a crown with good thread distance that takes more than a half a turn to work its way on or off the case. Also, the grip and feel of the crown here in use is fantastic. I know it's not commonly remarked on, but a crown's scale and placement on the watch can really make or break the purchase for me. But this here is superb. I like being able to access the time setting easily, and anything that inhibits that is unwelcome. This watch feels like it was tailored with the user in mind. So the scale of its components are made just right. They did a fantastic job here. Speaking of the components, the bracelet here is a real treat. It comes with a series of screw-in whole links and half links, 2 half links to be precise, and 6 levels of micro adjustment on the clasp. If you can't get this to fit your wrist, you're doing it wrong. I've never had an easier time sizing a bracelet. Also, if you're not fond of bracelets, removing the bracelet is made simple with the increasingly rare drilled lugs found on this case. Every sports watch should have drilled lugs. I'm positive I'm not the first person to be saying that, but let's continue to echo that belief so more and more brands continue with this trend. It's good. We like it. Keep doing it. Now, for all of you Lume junkies, and there are a lot of you out there, this watch has Lume. and it's awesome. Similar to Zelos, it's featured pretty much everywhere. The dial, the bezel insert, and even the crown is loomed out with a great application, I might add. They were not stingy when applying coats to the Catalina, and I know plenty of you will appreciate that. Before I give you my final verdict on the Urban Gentry watch, I'm going to provide you all with a wrist shot so you can see what this might look like on your wrist. I am very much a bracelet person, and if the watch comes with a good bracelet, expect to see the watch head on said bracelet for the duration of my time with it. And this bracelet here is really great. It just feels fantastic on the wrist. There's no jingle or jangle to it, although you can hear the rotor every now and then. It is a little noisy, but it's not the end of the world. It's certainly not the noisiest I've heard before. But here is the NTH Catalina on a 7¼ inch wrist for all of your admirers. And when you are going to admire it, it's going to look a little something like this. And here is the NTH Catalina sub on a 7¼ inch wrist. At 40 millimeters in diameter and 48 millimeters from lug end to lug end, it wears extremely well. And that goes for every single model of NTH out there that is in the sub styling. If it's not the Catalina, I bet it will wear just as well, but sans that aesthetic, which I do really enjoy about this watch. So some of you may have noticed, but the NTH Catalina is no longer available on Watch Gauge's site. My part 1 video was just that popular. However, having spoken with John about the Catalina, this limited run may be continued if the interest is there. Now, I mentioned this during our unboxing and first impression, but I was immediately taken with this piece. I honestly think this should be a staple in NTH's collection, with the few tweaks I mentioned, perhaps, and take time on the dial instead. But other than that, it's a stellar diver for $650, whose total package feels as though it should cost a whole lot more. Chris of NTH and Tristano did a great job on this piece. Don't let these be the only ones on the market. Now, if you found this video enlightening or in the least entertaining, feel free to hit that like button. It looks a whole heck of a lot like this guy. If you have friends, forums, or groups that are interested in picking up an NTH watch, feel free to share this video with them first. Not only the unboxing and first impression so they can get an idea of what the consumer packaging is like, but also get another consumer's opinion on the piece. And if you're new to the channel, well, welcome. I do videos like this 2 or more times a week, so if watch content is your thing, feel free to slam that subscribe button, and while you're down there, feel free to hit that bell icon so you can be alerted as to when my videos air. Again, my name is Patrick Marlett, and thank you for the time.